You changed my life. Like, I got out the streets and got out of jail, and it just made me think about how, like, I was able to do that for him in Boston, and then he seen me in real life. You know, like, where I'm from, when I was coming up, I never seen a nigga who was famous or successful in person.
Yeah.
So for us to be like here in person and a nigga like, you changed my life and I ain't even never seen you and now I get to actually see you in real life, like,
yes.
That's big. That's a possibility.
Yeah. You shifted my perspective on a lot of shit just from Instagram communications. Me following and you talking. A lot more of y'all interviews is what. That's what I'm very informative, so I like to learn from people. So a lot of the content that I'm paying attention from you is the conversational shit. And it was a clip that recently, it was like 2 days ago or maybe 3 days ago, he was talking to somebody at the compound about like your unlocking skills. It's not something that it's not something that you're creating or you didn't have. You're unlocking shit that was already in you. And I feel like that type of that sentiment is so powerful. But I was talking to somebody earlier about it. You got to do a lot of self work to understand that. And I think I shared that on my story that day that you posted it. And I seen so many other people, like this one of my homegirls, she DM'd me and she was like, yo, we must be twins, because I just posted the same shit on my story.
Right.
But that's how powerful, just that.
Resonating.
Bro, that's crazy, because I think a lot of times people just don't think about it. If you take a step back and we look at self and what you want out of not just this, because I think a lot of times people see this and listen to everyone and they're like, I want to be a part of this, and they don't, but they don't know what they want to extract. It's like figure out the why, but you have to do self-evaluation into that type shit. And a lot of times, especially post-pandemic, it's hard to kind of sit with yourself. You don't want to. We were isolated for so long, so you don't want to do shit like that now. But that's where the real work starts. Before you can get out here, showcase who you are and all these other things, it starts with who you are. The human development shit y'all was talking about yesterday. It's like,
yesterday's convo was pivotal.
Yeah.
Pivotal. Those are going to be good clips, because like, I feel like that's the phase that everybody try to skip as artists. It's like, and the labels don't teach that. They teach artist development, but it's like, you can't develop an artist who's undeveloped as a human.
Exactly.
The reason Kanye and Hov and Cole and Kendrick could rap about certain shit is because on a human level, they're well read.
Yes.
It's like, you can't do too much impactful shit without being a certain level of a human. Like, you know, we meet niggas all the time, and it's like, you can tell the niggas who gonna change the world and the niggas who will change their living situation, you feel me? But the world is much larger.
Yeah, that's a different feat. And it's only built for certain soldiers. We know that saying, God gives his hardest battles the strongest soldiers. Yeah. I feel like I gotta tell a lot of people around me that a lot, because you know, in this space, shit is always moving. Like, shit is changing all the time. You gotta be able to think on your feet. I'll notice with certain folks when they start to overwhelm them and stress them, like, and then that's how you kind of weed. Yeah, like that kind of weeds off the good from the great. Because like, you got to understand in this space, shit can change on the drop of a dime, and you got to be ready to deal with whatever the issue is. And I tell people like, yo, take your time with it, but also understand again what you want out of this. Because it's something I committed to myself. I signed up for this shit, so I accept everything that come with it.
Yeah.
You got to, if you're not willing to accept everything that comes with it, you're not willing to accept your mic going out mid-performance, you're not willing to accept your set time getting pushed back, someone not answering a call when you're supposed to, shit not being right. If you get a problem with that, it's not the space for you. It don't go away.
What you doing after this?
Studio, we got an after party.
You got a lab?
Yeah, old bro. It's out in Malden. Or we could also go back to BTO. You know, that space is like, we got full access to that shit all the time. And they got a studio in the back. I'm not sure if you got that.
Small.
Yeah, it depends on where you want to go. We can go to whatever studio you want to go to.
Yeah, let's get something before we get out the city.
Okay, shit.
We can get one.
I'm about to release it
however we want to do it,
I'm about to put that together right now. So shit. But to your point, I do want to ask y'all that, because y'all do meet a lot of folks. Like, you feel me? How do, like, the mixing of energies, because I'm really big on that. Like, I'm big on energy. I don't like to be in mixy energy. I like genuine people. That's why I brought y'all out. It's like, y'all genuine from thousands of miles away. I can tell. How do you kind of, being that you have to move, you gotta go. Like, how do you do that? All, like, as a group too, because y'all are always together. Like,
well, that's the thing, we don't have to move or have to go. So for us, we're really meticulous from the inception. Like, from the start, like, even with this, it was so many things changing and moving that on our end, we're like, okay, we know these signs, so this is how we come into the situation. You feel me? Luckily, like when we got here, we was met with so much love and grace, and that alters everything. But we're really meticulous from the start. Like if it come in a certain way, we already like, we don't want to partake in that energy because we've had so many experiences. So all throughout the process, which is why we do the bookings direct, because we can make those decisions in the initial phase to be a part of that energy or not. And then as we get closer, it's like, okay, what's the second deposit on time? How did this go? How did this? And we get to develop. So by the time we get here, usually by the time we in person, you know, we have enough gauge over our space to where we want to deal with the energy or not, and how much immersed we want to be, and how and how intertwined. Like you've been so cool this whole time. I didn't even realize you was the nigga who brought us out here, or that you rapped, or none of that, because you didn't flood us with none of that. It was just like what y'all need taken care of. You feel me? That's why I'm like, let's get in the lab. You feel me? Like it opened the door for that to exist. So we just really fill it out and go with how it feels. If it don't feel good, we won't be around. We'll be in our. We just when we come to a city, we just move around anyway. So, I'm noticing that. You know, we don't really have to associate with the people in the city to get love from the city, because we go fuck with the city in general. You feel me? But yeah, when we find the parties that make sense, it's like we just rock heavy and get everybody right.
I feel like we also are like tone setters. So whatever room we come into, our energy is gonna flush out any energy that don't align anyway. And if it don't do that, then we won't be there. But it's not really, I don't feel like it's something that we really have to think too heavy on. Like it really, like we're very well taken care of universally. So it just kind of flows naturally.
I asked too, because like with the launch of the compound space, like we had a space out here. So we moved out of the studio space that we had just because, one, we didn't own it, and the people that we were dealing with weren't the best people in the world, and we're representing artists in the process. And it's BIPOC group of artists. So we want to make sure, again, like making sure people are well taken care of, you're met with great energy. We want to provide those spaces everywhere.
What the fuck is BIPOC?
Black, indigenous people of color.
I be seeing these terms, and I be like, nigga, where I grew up, these things didn't exist. This is new shit to me. People of color is a new thing to me.
But I feel like what's about the East Coast was very interesting is like how we separate, categorize. A lot of that shit happens here, and it stems from things that has happened historically, like redlining, all those fucking practices and things of that nature. And it's kind of what has shifted us to even operate in silos a lot here. In Boston, we operate in silos. And it's kind of to like my original point of question, like having space, we'll run into a lot of issues where, we have great energy and we push out a great message, but sometimes folks that come into our space don't always align, and we aren't able to sometimes identify, be that off, because it takes a certain type of individual to identify, like, oh, yo, you feel me? Not everybody has that skill set, but everybody's great to be around. So it's like, I'm kind of wondering, your practice having that space, having so many people come by.
I was thinking that too, like about the space that you guys were creating. I was like, damn, like y'all, when they introduced the girl who like goes out and gets the money, like a whole flurry of thoughts went through my head, and I was like, damn, she's able to go out and get money because this is like something that is for the public to use. Like people come in, you have to get students to come in, and then you get to pay them and whatnot. But if you don't have students coming in that you're paying, then they cut the funding and all that stuff. But the way that we operate is like, that's why a lot of the time we don't have outside donors, because you're not going to oversee and tell me how many people I bring in and how I operate.
We turn down investment for that. Like we have people who want to invest in us, like, nope, you're doing too much already. Like I refuse to be sanctioned or controlled
and we're not for
by anybody.
Exactly.
We're for the public, but not for the public.
But we're not publicly accessible. Like any nigga can't just walk into the estate and be like, I want to cook up with y'all.
Right? You can't take away. You can't buy your way in. Like it's really even people who buy features from me. I'm very meticulous in what. Like I have full control over every process, from our bookings to everything. We get bookings for amounts that's like that amount makes sense, but this doesn't make sense for us. This person doesn't make sense. You feel me? But y'all don't have as much selection and criteria over that because it is like publicly funded. So there's people allowed to come in who may not have the best interests. You feel me? Because they just want the badge of saying I help the community type shit. And that alters a lot. You feel me? Because it's like if you allow them to feed you, then you also allow them to starve you when it's time. When they decide I don't want to feed this no more. Now it's like, fuck, we got to figure out, you feel me? But we're never really in that position because we feed ourselves. We allow people to bring food to the table, but it's also like, it was already food here. You feel me?
Yeah, you just add to the feast. But I feel like, being really important, being really particular about who you allow to even invest in the space allows you to control who then enters the space thereafter. Because without that initial control, then they might bring in some people, or now this is supposed to be public for everybody to use, so now you don't get to decide who enters the space and what kind of energy they bring. It's like, oh, well, I thought this was for everybody. Now you're facing all types of
And I feel like that's what kind of ruins cultivation and the repetition of cultivation, because if I start off saying, no, I grow 5 plants a year, but I grow the 5 best plants that feeds the village, and then you say, well, let's open the doors and we grow all the plants, but they're not all getting to this peak of potential, and it's like, we got a bunch of kids here, but what are they becoming? Like, are they hard, or is this kid somebody you gonna take to LaRussell and say, bro, this nigga's so hard, he deserves this spot? Or am I gonna hear him and be like, it was cool. You feel me? Like,
he got to express himself.
It doesn't enable you. Like, if you look down our lineage and tree, Malachi is. You don't find grown men who could rap as good as him. Shantae is phenomenal. Like, we don't. Everybody, like, we work with plenty of people, but the ones that's like, no, this is under our wing and we're gonna give them opportunities and put them in positions. You don't meet nobody that's not phenomenal at what they do that you feel like, man, this nigga could change the game. It's like Splash has changed the way visuals are being put out to. Everyone is replicating what we do. And it's because it's a few of us. You feel me? The homie say, Hov, it's not many of us. I said less is more, nigga, it's plenty of us. You feel me?
With you, bro. I'm right there with you, bro.
You feel me? Like, sometimes you have to be hyper selective so you can really grow something to the level it needs to be to really, really make an impact versus trying to impact everyone. If you just get 5 people who are hyper impactful, they'll impact everyone. But if you try to impact everyone at once, you're not doing it because nobody's really getting to that point. And I think the leadership is very important in that cultivation as well. Like, we were talking yesterday, usually when we go into like these public spaces, it'd be hard to like find super gems, you know, because everyone is kind of like, everyone is still like figuring out their path versus having someone that's like, no, that nigga is that nigga in this and he's going to cultivate that. Like, Mally lives with me. So he gets to see an artist become this through experience, through actually being there and being forth, you feel me? And it cultivates a certain spirit and energy. So it's just like, sometimes you gotta narrow it down and really lean in to make something that's super, super impactful that opens it up for more to exist.
And especially once you get a few greats, like pillars in like each section, like if you have somebody in who's just the best at mixing, that's gonna make everybody who wants to learn mixing come in, and then now you have all these prodigies for mixing, which brings in top tier artists who need to get mixed, and it just kind of flows that way. But if you don't have at least one pillar, one genius in the space, it's hard for them to like build that morale throughout it. It just everybody's figuring it out.
People look at the situation more as like hobbyists, you know, like some people go to basketball camps just to play, and then there's niggas who go to Jordan camp because it's like, no, we going here to be the greatest. We're not going here just to spend time.
This
You
ain't
feel me? Like, it's, for real. Like you feel me? Like you get to build that, and that's what Goodcompenny is. People come to us to be great because they want to change their life and like thrive in it, and we pick those ones that we're like, you know.
And it's not only about skill. It's like it has to be in totality. And even if you might not be the greatest, you have the hunger to be the greatest. It has to be there, or else it just like you dilute the pool.
I feel like y'all look at community different too, and I kind of want to ask y'all about that because I feel to your point of like when you have public funding coming in, it kind of forces you to kind of play by these guidelines, or you're answering to somebody else at some point in time. I think what we struggle a lot with is like this idea of community, to where what I said to somebody earlier was like, I believe in community we don't need as much collaboration as we think we do, but we do need to peacefully and positively coexist. And that with that happening, that means you can be supportive of what somebody has going on. You don't necessarily need to be in their pockets or inside of the operation to support, uplift, and kind of push that shit forward. And I think here, the misconception is that we have to have both of those things. Like, we need to be always collaborating. We need to be making sure that and it's just like that. Don't, to your point, we not making sure what we need to get right is right, so that it can then trickle effect and affect everything else to come.
I feel like when you don't focus on that, you start putting out so much shit that the public perception starts becoming like, oh, they put out subpar shit into the world.
Exactly.
And then you don't get as many people that want to be a part of it, because it's like, well, every time we see something come out of here, it's like, you know, it starts to feel like it just, like I said, certain niggas don't go to the rec center because they know they can't get no real run. You know, like you'll ask a nigga and they be like, yeah, it's cool up there, but they can't really run. Like, dogs really want to run. So if I know it ain't no dogs over there where I could really get off, you know, you start to build a space based around that, which I think is necessary too. But it depends on what you want to build. Like, and that be the thing when you're tackling community, because you have to be inclusive, right? But it's only so inclusive you could be to really, really cultivate dogs.
Yeah. I think that's what BTO is doing a good job with their incubator program, and we're trying to develop, like, that's my goal, is to develop more accelerator conceptual programs to where we're not like putting people through something or working with them and then after 6 months we kind of just leave them on their own. Like, we still cultivate these individuals and still build relationships and connect them with resources beyond that process, but find a way to kind of create services. Like I said, our BTO offers artist services to everybody that you see perform here today and that will perform later, and then even some of the artists that were there yesterday. But like, how do we do that in a way?
What does that look like for y'all? Like, what's artist services?
So helping them distribute records, service their records, getting media placements. When we talk about brand development, like their image and stuff like that, helping out with that. If it is even to the sense of like, just recently, EV Maceo, who you asked me about, that was performing downstairs, he's a part of a group called Ethereal Visions. It's about 5 of them young kids. They're hard. They just did a deal with United, the deal that I was telling you about. They did a distro deal, but it was just for artist services with UM, and BTO helped kind of facilitate that process, making sure, because they're all young, they have no representation, making sure that they know what they're doing and they're being protected, and kind of like guided through that. Because like, even with that, it was like, damn, you know, they reached out kind of outside of this program, knowing that they're a part of this program. They kind of go around to kind of reach out to the artists, and they had that shit happen, and it's like they can kind of treat them whatever way when they get up there. So it's like provided not, so I'll say some legal, some agency work, but then to the I think the core component is artist development. It's like making sure that these young people that are coming up are good people first. They get good treatment. They get like a holistic environment to be in, because they, like, BTO doesn't just offer that studio. They act as mentors a lot of times to these kids. Like, there's certain there's certain kids that in the program that the reality is they need help with places to stay. And they partner with an organization called Cashapp that focuses on houselessness and DV. So it's like a direct resource they can provide to some of these youth. That some of them do, like to your point, it is just a hobby, but they come and find a safe haven in that place. Yeah. And I wouldn't say those are the young people that, like, it isn't like necessary for them to be there, or they come in with like a bad energy that would throw anything off. It's just like, we want to develop spaces for those folks too that have creative elements to them, because that's what a lot of the folks, especially on the younger side of things, is drawn to out here. Yeah. Like, folks are not saying they want to come out of high school and be lawyers and be doctors. They're looking to get into creative fields.
And that's the tough thing working with a communal pod, right? Like, I was talking to my daughter's teacher one time, because he used to like hold the class back for like negative behavior, and I used to tell him, like, you can't punish or slow down those who are in advancement due to those who aren't in advancement. So you got to figure out a way to target everyone, but still make sure those who are advanced gets that extra advancement, right? Because it's like teaching kids at a grade level, but this one is at a 10th grade level, but they're in 5th, right? And you're like, but we gotta take on everybody, so you teach it at this level, right? So it's always trying to find a way to like embrace everybody so they still get the help and resource they need, but figuring out a way to funnel those ones that are like, bruh, we can't though they're in the same class, we can't teach them the same, you know, and that's that's the problem with like public education, because they don't, it's not narrow enough to create stars, you know. Yeah,
I think too we like sometimes struggle with identifying scholars, because it's like to know someone wants it, like you said, there's a difference between telling like who's gonna make a career in this for themselves to make sure that they're good, and those folks that have changed the world. Like that's a different look in your eye. Like sometimes if you don't have all the right people around you, identify even those folks earlier on. Because I feel like there's a kid, Josiel, he's in EV. He just turned 16. When I tell you, he probably has more confidence than anybody I've ever seen at his age. It's ridiculous. Like, he's in every room he walk in, he's the sexiest man alive at 16 years old. That's how he feel. Like, he get on stage, he's very enthusiastic, he's charismatic, he has everything he like would need to win in this game. And I think like sometimes it's hard to like, okay, this person is around these group of people, how do I pull this seed out of this place and place them over here so that they can be fruitful? Because where they're kind of currently residing, we can't accommodate everything, you can't build for everything. Hey, how are you? Good. Okay, where?
I'm about to go downstairs.
Okay.
Hi.
So this is Felice.
Nice to
Felice,
meet you.
T.
How's it going?
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Oh, okay, okay.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Artist for Humanity.
I honestly want to take that as a sign, and I'm thinking that we should probably sign it.
God. So you finna hold the panel? You about to host it?
Toki is going to be sitting with you guys. He wasn't able to make yesterday, but he's a Berkeley professor, comic studies, hip hop guy.
Y'all Berkeley or our Berkeley?
Our Berkeley.
I was fucking with you. You should host the panel though, because you have good questions.
One of the homies from Brainchild is pulling up. Could we let him in?
Of course, bro. Yeah. They're good folks at Maya that y'all